What's going on, everyone? This is Jason of Auglitical. So, more details are emerging about this case or this event that had happened in New York City very recently. Jordanneely, a homeless man who died in the New York City transit system. Uh, and we're getting more details, and honestly, it's nothing really surprising, but I'm gonna follow up with it because it needs to be said. Because right now, you have the usual suspects trying to start nonsense. They're talking about scrapping up. They're talking about shooting people. They're talking about acting a fool.
The days of murdering us and getting away with it are fucking over. Over and done. If we have to strap up and come out here and just start popping, it's gonna happen. We're tired of it. Let's go. That's it.
We're black people under attack.
You try to encroach upon any one of us, we laying you the fuck down. They didn't learn after George Floyd. They didn't fucking learn. My body count is established. Look it up. Criminal court, murder, 42nd Street, 1984. Look it up. That's me. 35 years. We ain't taking this shit no fucking more.
Yeah.
You know what I find absolutely hilarious about this is the two, I'm guessing three white people that are literally sitting. I know the Asian woman, she got the fuck out of there, but I see at least three white people that are sitting there, and it's always white women, bro. They sit there, they're clapping and whatever like that. They're showing that they support this, and it's like you have literally no self-preservation skills at all. Because in a situation like this, if I was white, bro, I would not be anywhere near this type of shit. My man is sitting here boasting about being a convicted murderer. You're listening to the words of a convicted fucking murderer? Talk about some fucking George Floyd? Are you stupid or are you dumb? But again, it's always the fucking usual suspects. Always. They didn't learn after George Floyd. Bro, why does the black race, why do ignorants, why do they sit there and they prop up every time we come together, every time our race comes together, the black community comes together, it's always for shit stains. George Floyd? They didn't learn? What was to learn about George Floyd? That the man put a gun to a woman's stomach? That even on his last day he was still scheming? That? What did we learn? What do we need to learn? Anyway, let's continue. A documented history of violence and erratic behavior, the apparent result of ongoing and untreated mental illness, his lawyers Steve Reiser and Thomas Kenneth wrote. And of course, that's what they're always going to run with, because that's like basically what they're going to say is, oh, well, he had mental problems, and etc. etc. That's what they're going to do. I mean, they're not wrong or right. That's just a standard thing that lawyers are going to do. And it is true. He did have mental issues. What I wanted to know, right, is what action caused that reaction, right? Because if you just think about it at all, right, there were multiple people that jumped on this one guy. People typically do not do these things. In fact, in New York City, you will be hard pressed to see a group of people jump in to stop and go after one random person, unless they're criminals, unless they're vagrants, however you say it, like assholes, like people, troublemakers and shit like that. But generally, random people do not come together to go after one random person unless that one random person is doing something that causes that response, right? It's very hard to see that, especially in New York, because we have a very I forgot the proper word that it is, where people sit there and they'll be stuck and they rather watch and record than actually do something, even if it's taking place right in front of them. So, digging in a little bit further, when Mr. Neely began aggressively threatening Daniel Penny and other passengers, Daniel, with the help of others, acted to protect themselves until help arrived. Danielle never intended to harm Mr. Neely and could not have foreseen his untimely death, the statement said. All right. So, again, I see this at least once a week on the train whenever I'm traveling in New York City. If I ride 10 times, I will at least see a situation like this go down. Not as far, but a situation where you have a mentally deranged person or somebody who's probably having a bad day or somebody with a chip on his shoulder that decides that they want to take it out on people. I've seen blatant racism on the train station because it's okay for black people to do it to white people. I see it all the time. Listen, I'm guessing Daniel wasn't having that. He wasn't raised that way. He wasn't gonna sit by and let nothing happen. So he wasn't. He damn sure wasn't gonna just be a statistic. Again, it's not shocking to me. The 24-year-old intervened when Neely started ranting on the train. We see this all the time. Threatening passengers and throwing trash at them. There you go. That's the action that caused the reaction. There are certain things people do, right, that is going to cause a reaction, right? It's very hard for a person not to hit you if you spit in their face. The actual act of someone spitting in your face, there's a high probability that they're going to lash out at that point, even if they don't want to, even if they want to avoid you. You get what I'm saying? It's very hard to not do that. So in this case, he's throwing trash at people, he's threatening people. All right, all right. Threatening passengers and throwing trash at them while asking for food, according to police and witnesses. Penny held the homeless man who struggled with mental health issues since his mother's murderer over a decade ago. What? Penny held the homeless man. I'm sorry, hold on. According to police and witnesses, Penny held the homeless man who struggled with mental health issues since his mother's murder over a decade ago. All right, so he probably mentally snapped. In a chokehold while two other commuters helped to restrain Neely's flailing limbs. Shocking video captured the moment, including the moment Neely 30 lost consciousness in Penny's arms. The city medical examiner ruled Neely's death a homicide, noting he died due to compression of neck, so chokehold, asphyxiation, right? Strangulation, whatever you want to go. Okay. What we know about New York City's subway choking victim, Jordanneely. Jordanneely was 30, a homeless man, was strangled aboard the Northbound F train just before 2:30 p.m. on May 1st, according to police. He reportedly started acting erratically on the train and harassing other passengers before being restrained and ultimately choked by a strap hanger, identified as 21-year-old Marine from Queens. The Marine, who was seen on video applying a chokehold, was taken into custody and later released, but the DA is mulling charges, which could include involuntary manslaughter. So yes, they want you not to be able to defend yourself at all, period. They want to take your ability to use a firearm in case somebody randomly tries to attack you, or give a woman an equalizer if some predator's trying to go after her. They don't even want you to be able to get a person who is acting like this out of your face after, let's say, spitting on you, attacking you, throwing trash at you. This actually reminds me when I was growing up. There was a lady that was on a train and she opened up she had like a box, and in the box was a bunch of water bugs on the train. Like just crazy ass people on the train. You know? The city medical examiner, okay, so this will be weighed during the investigation into whether charge will be brought on Neely's death. Neely's aunt told the Post that he became a complete mess following the brutal murder of his mother in 2007. She noted he was schizophrenic while suffering from PTSD and depression. The whole system just failed him. He fell through the cracks of the system. No, he didn't. He didn't fall through the cracks. They had a paper trail on him. Listen. It is unfortunate that happened to that man. 100. But he didn't fall through no cracks. And again, I say it again. It takes 40 seconds for the train station to go from one stop to a completely different stop. If Penny was able to put this man in a chokehold for 15 minutes, let that sit in 15 minutes. So what you are trying to say Is the train didn't move. There was no police officers. Nothing was done for 15 minutes. So where was the train? Was the train at the station? Because that's even worse. Or did you guys stop the train in the middle between stations exactly and was waiting for police officers to come? Which one is it? Because if it takes 15 minutes for police officers to get to the scene, that's how bad New York is. And you want to sit there and tell people not to defend themselves when it takes a police officer 15 minutes to get on the scene of a crime? Let that sit in the next time you see the usual suspects like what's happening right now, where you have a convicted murderer on the streets right now talking about he wants to go, and if that's what it takes, they'll strap up and they'll start shooting people to be heard. And yes, there's a person right now in New York City who was talking that crazy shit, and they're trying to ramp up to start riots and shit for this man who was choked out on the train. The city felt this man, and you want to give you know okay, whatever. At the time of his death, I'm sorry, law enforcement sources said Neely had numerous arrests on his record, including for drugs, disorderly conduct, and fare beating. At the time of his death, Neely had a warrant out for his arrest for a November 1, 2021 case in which he was accused of assaulting a 67-year-old woman in the East Village, the sources said. Mayor Eric Adams has said it's important for the DA to complete the investigation into Neely's death and not rush to conclusions. What is the read more? Took me to a completely different thing. Wait, what is that? What was that? Okay. All right. All right. Neely, who suffered from PTSD and depression, had a long history of mental health struggles and had numerous arrests on his record and more than a dozen run-in with police throughout the years. Listen, I feel like whenever they start talking about depression now, when it comes down to these type of things, it's like yes, every single person who ends up in the news like this, they always go to they have depression. Everybody has depression now. Everybody has mental health issues in New York City at this point. So maybe there's a mental health problem in New York City. Maybe we should address this properly instead of, I don't know, trying to start random riots and all of this shit and point fingers. This is crazy. And look, they're trying to sacrifice this man. The whole system felt him. He fell through the cracks of the system. His aunt Carolyn Neely told the Post Thursday. Penny's lawyers said they hope that out of this awful tragedy will come a new commitment by our elected officials to address the mental health crisis in our street and subways. Law enforcement sources said a grand jury could be called by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office as early as next week to determine whether or not to bring an indictment. Bro, you know what's crazy? We've already seen that when it comes out to the court system, and it's New York, we've already seen that they'll hang you just to appease the mob. In fact, the fact that this man's name is revealed, it's a bad look. But whatever that happens, as the story develops, I'll cover it as follows. Stay safe, everyone, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.